Hey everyone, welcome. I appreciate you guys taking the time to be here tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jose Vasquez. I'm a real estate investor, landlord, and entrepreneur. And over the years, real estate has completely changed my life. Tonight is actually the first call in a series of weekly trainings where we're going to break down real estate investing from the ground up. Now, this is not going to be the guru version. It's not going to be the Instagram version, but the real mechanics behind how this business actually works. And I know a lot of people have mixed experience in this community. Some of you are brand new. Some of you already did deals. So the way I'm going to approach this training is pretty simple. I'm going to teach the principles and the frameworks behind the business in this first call. If you're brand new, you're going to leave tonight understanding the blueprint. And if you're experienced, you're going to recognize the systems behind this framework, behind this blueprint. So also, a quick housekeeping before we start. At the end of the call, I'm going to show you guys how to join our Telegram community where we do live Q&A and drop the links for our weekly trainings. So if you haven't already joined that, stick around until the end, until I show you exactly how to get in. So let's jump right in. So let me start with something that might surprise the majority of you. Most people think real estate is about houses. And it's not. All right. Real estate is about problems. And the people who solve the most problems make the most money. But there's another misunderstanding people have about this business. They think real estate is about strategy. And it's not. Real estate is actually a game. And like any game, there's rules. Once you understand the rules, the game becomes predictable. Tonight, I want to walk you through this real estate game. Not the tactics, not the guru stuff, but the underlying structure that drives this entire industry. Once you see the structure from like the front of it to the end of it, you'll never look at real estate the same way again. Because the truth is, amateurs chase deals, operators build systems. And tonight, we're going to talk about a system. Now, before we talk about the mechanics of real estate, I do want to give a little bit of context about myself. Not because I'm this cool guy or because my story is unique or because I deserve praise, but because it explains the perspective I bring into this business. I didn't grow up around money. It was actually the opposite. I grew up in poverty, in the projects, in and out of subsidized housing. It was just, your typical, living under the poverty line type of situation. There was actually a period in my life where I was surviving on SSI, right? And on top of that, I had a serious leg injury that resulted in a fusion of my foot. And that's the reason why I was getting disability. But I had to stretch $700+ for rent, light, gas, food, toiletries, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. And to this day, I still walk with a lift in my shoe due to all the surgeries. So I say that to say this: I learned early in life what much people don't realize until much later, which is nobody is coming to save you. Right? If you want a different life, you have to build a different life. You have to build a different system. And eventually I discovered real estate. At first, I thought real estate was something rich people did. I thought you needed perfect credit. I thought you needed a lot of money. I thought you needed connections. But the more I studied the business, the more I realized something important. Real estate is not magic. Real estate is a system. And systems can be learned. Over time, I started learning how to analyze deals. I started learning how to talk to sellers. And eventually, I built a rental portfolio. So real estate became the vehicle that allowed me to move from survival mode into building wealth. But that didn't happen overnight. It happened through discipline, through structure, through doing things that I didn't always feel like doing. which leads to one of the biggest lessons in this business. Structure creates results. You have to do things you don't want to do at a high level if you want the outcomes you want at a high level. Now, here's one of the biggest misunderstandings beginners have about real estate, right? They think the goal is ownership. They think they need to own all of this stuff. And the truth is, you got to stop. The first stage of real estate is not ownership. It's actually control. Now, wealth in real estate is created through control before ownership. Because when you control opportunities, you control outcomes. Try to stay with me here. The person who controls the deal controls the money. Now, let's talk about how this real estate game actually works. Every deal flows through the same structure, and I want you to write this down. You have the lead, the conversation, the contract, the buyer, and the closing. That's the business. So let's break this down, right? First, you have the lead. A lead is a property owner who might be interested in selling, right? Maybe they inherited a property. Maybe the house needs repairs. Maybe they're facing foreclosure. Maybe they're going through a divorce, or maybe they simply want to sell quickly. Now, the way you get these leads are through various marketing channels, and we can discuss that in the live Q&A. But next comes the conversation. You talk to the seller, you understand the seller, and it's important you know that your job here is not to pressure them. Your job is to understand their situation, why they want to sell, what condition the property's in, what timeline they're working with, I should say. And ultimately, you need to learn how to talk to sellers in order to have the best quality conversations so that you know how to help them in order for you guys to be able to work together. It's very important that sellers know you, like you, and trust you in order for them to want to do business with you. And there's a sales process that explains exactly how to talk to sellers. And again, these are all things that we can address in the live Q&A. So far we have the lead, we have the conversation, and next comes the contract. If the numbers make sense, you sign the purchase agreement, right? The contract you sign gives you equitable interest in the property. Now, that doesn't mean you have to assign that equitable interest for a fee. That means you can maybe keep it. But the ultimate thing here is you need to know your numbers. The numbers need to make sense. You have to know how to analyze deals. You need to know the after repair value. You need to know, how much it would be to rehab. You need to know your holding costs, your closing costs, so that ultimately you're locking in deals that make sense and you're not just wasting everybody's time. So then after the purchase agreement, finally you have the buyer. You have to find another investor who wants to purchase the property if you're going to assign that purchase agreement. And the way to do that is pretty simple. I mean, if you attend your local RIAs, if you connect with realtors, there's plenty of buyers out there. There's more buyers than there are deals. And buyers are looking for deals every day. So once you have a smoking hot deal, they'll definitely be chomping at the bits for your deal. But the thing is, are you locking it in at a good enough price to be able to move that deal? And finally, after you find your buyer, the deal closes, and pretty much that's where the money is made. But once you see this structure clearly, real estate stops feeling super complicated, and you just realize it's a system. It's literally those things, right? They're like 5 pillars. Every successful real estate investor becomes strong in those 5 areas, and you can kind of call it the 5 pillars of real estate. Pillar number 1 would be like lead generating, because ultimately no leads means no deals. Pillar number 2 would be conversations. Got to learn how to talk to sellers, ask the right questions, uncover motivation. Pillar number 3 would be contracts, understanding the purchase agreement, how it protects you, how you can structure the deal correctly. Pillar number 4 would be the buyers. Once you find investors that are ready to purchase these properties, you can start negotiating and generating income like that. And I guess the 5th pillar would be kind of wealth, right? Because wholesaling creates income, but ownership is what creates wealth. Wholesaling is a job. Ownership is kind of like a retirement plan. So in this business, there are 3 stages that you guys should really take into consideration. Now, I'm talking to the beginners. I'm sure the experienced guys have gone through some of these stages, and it's a doozy. So stage 1 is the hustler, right? This is where most beginners start. This is where you're cold calling, you're driving for dollars, you're doing manual outreach, you're doing your absolute best to get as many leads in as possible, and you're just like hustling your way through it. You're just bulldozing through it. You're knocking on doors, putting out bandit signs, doing guerrilla marketing, all of that good stuff. Now, that will give you results, but you can't stay on hustle mode forever, man. All it does is burn you out. But it's a stage that we all go through. Stage 1 is the hustler, right? Stage 2, however, is the operator, right? Once you become an operator, that's when systems begin to appear. This is where you get your what you call it? I'm drawing a blank. Your customers relationship, your CRM. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Once you're an operator, this is where you get your CRM in order. I was thinking CMA. But anyway, once you're an operator, you're getting your CRM in order, you're tracking your leads, you're creating your sales process, you're building consistently, you're doing marketing, and essentially this is when you can start tracking your KPIs and you can start closing on a consistent basis, because ultimately it's based on something that we call like the law of averages, right? Everything has a number behind it. Let's say you talk to 17 sellers and you generate 1 contract, and that's your KPI. Like, okay, if I talk to 17 people and I have 17 quality conversations, I know consistently I can generate at least 1 contract. And then you get to, set up your systems where you're talking to 34 people and you're like, okay, well, if I talk to 34 people, I'm generating 2 contracts, so on and so forth. So you need to know your law of averages in order for you to successfully make it like a consistent thing. But that's where you're becoming an operator. You're tracking your leads, you're creating your process, you're looking at your key performance indicators, and you're building consistency with, your follow-up systems, etc. And the 3rd stage is, I want to say, like a capital allocator. And I guess this is when your money begins to work for you. This is when you're already closing, when you have money saved up and you begin to acquire rentals, you start investing in assets, and you start planning for long-term wealth. Those are the 3 kind of stages that every real estate investor goes through. It's like hustler, I'm gonna do this no matter what. And then it's like operator, okay, I have my systems in place. And then eventually it's like, okay, well, I can start buying these things, and I don't have to chase deals my whole life because I have rentals that actually cover my living expenses. So if you're someone brand new, here's a simple starting point. You should choose your market, whether it's Berks County, Schuylkill County, Lehigh County. Take a look at the cities. The cities is where the most income is made when it comes to investing. Look at how much they're closing for, how much they're active for, how much the cash comps are. You should also learn how to talk to sellers. That's really important. And these are questions that we can address in the live Q&A. You should study a basic purchase agreement, you know, because what's the point of talking to sellers and somebody says yes when you can't explain what the purchase agreement has in it? And also, essentially, you should start a buyer's list, some sort of buyer's list, or someone who has buyers, partner with people, JV with people, talk to other realtors. Know what these investors are looking for, what's in their buy box, what type of properties they want to buy, what profits they're looking to make in order for you to be able to bring those deals to those specific buyers so that you're not wasting everybody's time. And most important, if you're a beginner, I would say take action consistently, because real estate rewards execution. It doesn't reward mass analysis, which causes analysis paralysis, right? So that's what I would advise if you are a beginner. But before we wrap up, I do want to talk about what we're building here. This is not just another random real estate group. You know, the goal is to build a disciplined community of people who are serious about learning this business. So over the coming weeks, we're going to break this business down piece by piece, from like lead generating to cold calling, deal analysis, contracts, finding buyers, and ultimately scaling a real estate business. So if you're serious about learning the business, stay plugged in, because this is only the beginning. Now, if you've enjoyed this training and you do want to keep learning with us, here's the next step. We run a Telegram community group where we continue these conversations. This is where we do live Q&A, drop the links for our weekly calls, and keep everyone connected. If you're not already in the Telegram group, you can join by filling out the web form. Once you submit the web form, it'll automatically redirect you to the Telegram community. That's where we post the links for our weekly trainings and where the real conversations continue. So if you haven't already joined, go ahead and fill out the web form and jump into the Telegram group, and I will see you guys in there. But before closing, I want to let you guys know that real estate doesn't require some sort of special background. It doesn't require perfect credit. It doesn't require a ton of money. But what it does require is discipline and consistency, and the willingness to learn the system. So real estate is simple, but it's not easy. And the people who win are the ones who refuse to stop. So yeah. Let's open it up for questions over on the Telegram, and I'll see you guys there.